What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Creativ Rise podcast. So glad you are here today. We're talking about ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Maybe you got it, maybe you don't. I know I got it.
And I don't.
She doesn't. We're going to be talking about what ADHD is today, how it affects my work, how it might be affecting your work, and the things that I'm learning how to kind of do in order to get better at being a creative, being a creator, a business owner with ADHD. And you specifically, a wife of somebody with ADHD and a business co-owner.
Yeah. If you're someone who's like, I don't have ADHD, or maybe I am wondering if I do, or whatever, I feel like this episode is going to be so helpful for you because understanding how an ADHD brain works is like the key to helping it, right? It's just a totally different structure of how things work. And so as someone who doesn't have ADHD, it can be either like confusing or like you might be like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? But once you understand more of it, it honestly has been so helpful for me. And I think has helped us both work better together when we have more of an understanding around this. So I hope this is really helpful. I think this is going to be super, super helpful, whether you have it or you don't, in just understanding more of ADHD and what it means for your business.
So I'll start with a little bit about my own journey with ADHD. So I got diagnosed. I'm one of those people that's actually diagnosed with ADHD. Like I know everyone throws around like, oh, like I think my ADHD is acting up. Like I actually got diagnosed with ADHD. I believe I was like 8 or 9 years old. I remember sitting in the doctor's office, went through all this testing. It was like a 2 or 3 day testing period with this psychologist, testing really to figure out what my brain was doing, why I was acting the way I was acting. School was really difficult for me growing up. That's why I was prompted to get tested for ADHD. Turns out I got ADHD and I have a processing disorder. So it means my brain just quite literally does not work in almost any of the ways that the school teaches. Therefore, it was a little bit tough on me. So over the course of, call it the last 15-ish years plus of me learning how to navigate being a human with ADHD, I've learned a few things. Now, quick little fast forward, the past month has been so difficult with my ADHD. I got to the point where I hired an ADHD coach, and it's been so great. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the episode, so stay tuned for that. But I was really, really struggling. So if you're unaware of what ADHD is attention deficit, meaning we have a hard time focusing, hard time keeping attention to something, attention deficit, hyperactive disorder. So for the people that have the H in the ADD, so there's ADD, which is attention deficit disorder. People are a little bit more calm and chill out, but they can't focus very well. And then there's people like me who have attention deficits, but we're also like super hyper.
Guess which one, Joey?
Yeah. So we're fired up all the time. And we get kicked out of class a lot because we can't stop talking or moving our chair or going up on the back of our, our 2 chair legs and falling, like constantly doing things, fiddling things you shouldn't do. That is what ADHD is. Now, how does it affect someone like me? Well, I am a business owner. I've owned a creative business, started my first video agency when I was 14 years old. This is now my 11th year being a creative, being a paid creative, running a business as a creative. Started a video agency at 14, turned into a video and photo agency, eventually just kind of more grand like content agency, started building websites, doing brand identity build outs. Now I just call myself a brand builder. It's pretty much what I do. We do everything from photo, video, web, brand, narrative brand, visual brand, everything you can think of. Now, over the last decade, there's been seasons of my life where my ADHD has been very tame. And then there's been seasons of my life, like this past month, where it has been horrible. And I ask myself why. I'm like, why does it seem like sometimes it's really easy and sometimes it's difficult? And I think the answer to that, based on what I've been learning from this ADHD coach and really looking back at my life, is that people with ADHD are addicted to stimulation. So when something is brand new, something is growing fast, something feels like it's fresh, it's easy to get our hands in the mud and go, I'm just going to get super, super focused on this. And it's going to be easy to focus on things because I have actually hyper-focus. People with ADHD have hyper-focus. They always say, oh, you can't focus if you have ADHD. We actually have hyper-focus. It's just hard to get ourselves off hyper-focusing on what we love to focus on something that's a little bit more mundane or boring or non-stimulating. So that's pretty much what ADHD is in the most simple form as I would describe it. In my own ADHD. Yeah. There's different variations of that, and people will slightly deal with it in different ways, but for the most of us with ADHD is a addiction to adrenaline and an addiction to stimulation. So it's hard to do things that are not stimulating.
Yeah. So talk about, for someone who's like, do I have it? Do I not have it? Describe what it being bad, quote unquote, looks like for you?
Yes.
Like, what is like,
Yeah, that's a great
what is like
question.
it being hard? What is that? How does that manifest in yourself?
Yeah, so Christy and I have got a lot going on. We've got some photo shoots coming up. We've got a couple different brand things we're working on right now. We're trying to run Creativ Rise. There's a lot going on in this season. And it's also summer. It's like we want to hang, we want to spend time with our families. We just got a new dog a couple months ago, like 2 months ago. There's a lot going on. And I found myself sitting down to do work and literally not being able to do anything. Christy would be like, you can do the task. Just go do it. Take 5 minutes and go do it. And I would come into this office where I work every day, and I would just sit here, and next thing you know, 5 minutes would go by. I'm like, dude, I didn't do anything. Like, what the heck? Here's how you know you might have ADHD. This might be a good self-diagnosis. You have a desire to do something, but it's like your body just cannot do it.
Like repel.
It's like you're chemically repelling having to do the task.
Or I've heard like other friends that have ADHD, they say it feels like I'm stuck in mud. Like it feels like my brain is stuck in mud and it's so hard
You
to
want to move forward, you just feel like you're stuck.
Yes.
My ADHD coach that I talked about earlier that I just hired, who I'm going to talk about again later on in the show, so stay tuned. She said, Joey, you've got to understand your brain. Because I was saying, I just want my brain. What's your goal? Is what she said. I said, I want my goal is for me to be able to work like my wife. She can sit down. Christy can sit down, open up her laptop, crank out editing for like an hour on something, and just close the laptop, be done, move on to something else. Like she is so good at compartmentalizing her life. It's a trigger word in the ADHD community. Not like triggers and bad, but I mean it's like a hot word because people with ADHD have struggles compartmentalizing. If you picture your brain like a ton of garages, okay? People who do not have ADHD tend to be able to compartmentalize their lives, meaning, okay, there's the work garage over here. I got a personal life garage over here. I've got a social life garage over here. I got my family over here. I've got my passions over here, my health. And all of these garages, they can click a button and one of the garages can go up. They can go into it, do something, and they can close the garage when they exit. And all garages stay closed, meaning they can compartmentalize and get focused in on one garage. Where people with ADHD, it's like their garages are just all open at all times.
It's just a block party.
And I'm just like, we're all hanging out. Like, what's going on in this garage? What's going on in this garage? Yeah. Or I'll be like, oh, I know I got to go into this garage and do this, but this garage is way more stimulating. It's more fun. It's more stimulating in my brain. Therefore, I can't get myself out of this garage. All I'm doing is thinking about this, but I know I should be doing that. And so that's actually a chemical problem inside of her. That's the makeup of my brain. So when my ADHD coach told me that, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I feel like I've been just dealing with this forever. So long story short, to wrap up a little bit of my story on ADHD, diagnosed when I was a young kid, got immediately put on Adderall and Strattera. Strattera and Adderall are two drugs for ADHD, if you've ever heard of them. If you're on them, great for you if they're working for you. I decided to go off meds. I'm not anti-meds. I just decided to go off.
We're not doctors. We're not telling you what you should or shouldn't do.
I just personally really wanted to try and get a grasp and really discipline myself to manage my ADHD. And I feel like for a long time it worked until this past month. So I am not medicated. And I personally am choosing, I don't want to go back on ADHD medication. So I had reached out to an ADHD coach to go, I think I need help. Like this has been a really difficult 3-4-ish months. And specifically the last month has been so difficult to focus and get things done. Even though I have the desire to do it, can you help me, Mrs. ADHD coach? And she said, yes. So I hired an ADHD coach and I've learned a few things. So I'm going to give you the couple things that I have found immediately helpful in the last couple weeks of working with her and things I'm implementing into my daily schedule. Before we do, a couple things we want to say. ADHD, number one, is not a deficiency. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Disorders are typically deficiencies. ADHD is not a deficiency. It's actually a superpower. Yeah. You would probably agree that my ADHD is a superpower of mine if I can get a grasp on handling it well and treating it well.
And if you want to just a little encouragement, if you feel like, oh my gosh, it really sounds scary to have a disorder like that has so much social stigma around it. Most incredibly successful CEOs, founders, highly creative people have ADHD. If you actually literally look up the stats, it's insane how many people have it. So I truly believe, being someone who does not have ADHD, there's a lot of ways I'm super jealous on how Joey's brain works and other people with ADHD's brain works, and it totally is a superpower. But like every superpower, there's always a backside, right? Yep. There's a strength to it, and then there's a weakness and a hard thing that you have to learn how to work with your brain.
Number two, second thing about ADHD is that everyone's different. So what works for me might not work for you, but I would encourage you to try it because what's working for me has been working for me and it's helpful. So I encourage you to try it, but it might not work. And what works for you might not work for me. That's just because everyone's brain chemistry is different. Number three, you can't have control. One of the things that I hate myself for saying, and I shouldn't have said this, but when I was in like the lows of it like 2 weeks ago, and I was so discouraged about how I felt my brain was going, and I could not get anything done. I remember saying to you, I'm like, I just have no control. Like it feels like I don't have any control over my discipline to get something done in a work matter.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do it, but I cannot do it. And you're like, no, you can do it. And that's what can happen when you get really discouraged about how your ADHD is acting up. You can get in this spot where you feel like you don't have any control over it. But the answer is, the truth is, you do have control over your own brain. You just might need some tools. And I was in that moment lacking some tools that were going to help me move forward and actually get some stuff done. So ADHD is not a deficiency, it's a superpower. Everyone's different and you can have control.
So why did you get an ADHD coach?
Yeah.
Like, why did you choose to do that?
Yeah. I got an ADHD coach because I got to a point a couple weeks ago where I was like, this cannot go on. I'm actually embarrassed. Like I told you this. I said as your business partner, but even more as your husband, I feel embarrassed. Like I had a really rough 2-week period where I genuinely feel like I wasn't accomplishing anything at work. And it made me embarrassed because I should be providing for you, supporting you in work. And I felt like I just was not able to do it. It was like something in my brain. It just felt like I was stuck in the mud. And I knew my ADHD was really acting up. So I was like, I got to get an ADHD coach. I'm going to start changing some of my diet. I want to see if I can fix some of these things. I was really just lacking some of the tools or, one of the things about a great coach is sometimes they're not even teaching you new tools. They're just reminding you of the way tools work and helping you pick up the right ones and placing them in your hands, actually use them, right? Yeah. So that's been my experience so far with this coach. I've definitely learned some new stuff, which I'm going to touch on, but I've also just been reminded of some stuff that I knew of and I used to maybe use back in a prior season of my life, but I just wasn't putting it into place. So when you're stuck in the mud and you really feel like you're not getting anywhere, you were super supportive of me. But sometimes you need an external and even further removed person to just come in and look at your situation and go, yo, like you've got this. You're really talented. It's clear you've got lots of gifts in all these areas. You're just stuck in the mud. Let's get you some tools to get you out of there. So that's what I needed. That's why I hired an ADHD coach. And boom, I feel like I bounced back so quick. Yeah. My brain's obviously not perfect, but these tools have been really helping. So
yeah. And this ADHD coach ain't cheap.
No, it's $700 a month. I'm paying $700 a month right now for an ADHD coach.
Also, this is not an ad.
And I'm going to just teach you everything that I'm learning. I want to share with you the things that I'm learning so you don't have to go and spend $700 right now. Just listen to this podcast and see if you get anything from it. Apply it to yourself. Yeah. So the first thing that I have been learning from my ADHD coach, and this was a phenomenal reminder. This is something that if you have ADHD, you need to take into consideration and try this as a tool, is to put physical distance between you and your distractions. Now, what does that mean? Here's a great analogy. You're on a road trip, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I really could use a drink right now. You pull over, you see a Starbucks, and you get one of the Starbucks drinks that is just a bunch of sugar, like 1,200 calories in it, but it tastes so good. And you have two options. You can put that thing in the cup holder right beside you, and within 2 miles of you getting back on the freeway, it's gone. At least for me, it's gone. I down stuff so quick because I'm like, this thing tastes so good. I'm going to drink it so quickly. Now, if I was to put it in the cup holder in the back seat and every 10 minutes I would reach really far back and grab it, what would happen to that drink? I would drink it so much slower, I might even forget about it. Why? Because I've put a physical distance between me and the distraction. So the same thing goes if you've got ADHD. If you have ADHD, this might be a distraction for you. This is a distraction for me. My phone is a distraction. When I am doing something I feel is not stimulating my brain, the work is boring, it's mundane, it's not stimulating to me, what do? Well, why don't I jump on Instagram and find something that's stimulating? Or why don't I go listen to a podcast that's stimulating? What is that? What do all these things do? It distracts me from what I actually should be focusing on right now, the needle moving task that I should be doing. Mundane or not, I need to get it done. So you got to put physical distance between you and your actual distraction. So one thing that I'm doing right now is I'm quite literally leaving that phone every time I do not need it for an exact task for work. I'm leaving it in the other room. Every time I come in here to work, I'm trying to leave it in the kitchen or throw it on my bed as I walk by. Or at worst, if I do need it in here for whatever reason, I need to grab it every couple minutes and check on something, I'll put it on the other side of the room. That has been so helpful. It's so simple, guys, but it's so helpful. Put physical distance between you and your distractions. Maybe the fridge is your distraction. You get up every 5 minutes and you want to just go eat and snack on something. Well, go work in another room. Go to a coffee shop. Go to somewhere where you're not going to be getting quick and easy access to that distraction. It's been super, super helpful. The other thing is you can be distracted by stuff that's not even necessarily physical, but just environmental struggles. So one of the things that I've been trying to really work on is making sure my environment is a space that will lend to being focus-based for me. So if I am in an environment where there's lots going on, it's super cluttered, I'm probably going to either one, not be able to focus very well, or two, I'll be like, this is great. I should be focusing on cleaning this. And I will spend 2 hours cleaning my environment. That probably hits home for people who spend all day reorganizing their office rather than doing things, right?
Yes.
So put your literal physical distractions, like put distance between them. Make sure your workspace is clean. And then here's one that is really specific to me. I don't know if this is helpful for you, but actually try putting on music. I don't listen to podcasts. Try not to listen to podcasts because if it's a podcast you've never heard, which is most likely what it is, you are going to be very stimulated. At least I am very stimulated. So unless it's a super mundane task you don't need a ton of brain power for, like editing, if you're listening to a podcast, you'll just be thinking about it and stirring on it. Where if you listen to music, a playlist where you know every single word to every single song, that's really helpful for me. I've got a playlist that I call Deep Work. Every single time I put it on, I can just get a little bit more focused because I'm getting this like rhythmic music going on in the background of what I'm doing. And it allows me to just kind of fall into this flow state of work because I know every single lyric. I'm not trying to like focus on the music. It's just helping me get into zone. So those are a couple tips on number one, putting physical distance between you and your distractions.
Yeah.
It's been very helpful.
It's great.
Number two, the second thing that I have learned about ADHD, and this is probably the most important thing that I've learned about myself when it comes to my own journey with ADHD and trying to build businesses as somebody with ADHD. My brain is addicted to stimulation. If you were to look at my life outside of work, you would probably say, yeah, Joey is someone who is a little bit addicted to adrenaline and stimulation. I love to jump off cliffs. I love to do flips on wakeboards, flips on skis off a mountain, snowboards, all that stuff. I love adrenaline. And when you put that into the workspace, I love stimulating work. I love work that makes my brain go, oh my gosh, and fires me up, which means that when it's not like that, it can be very difficult to get stuff done, as I've said earlier. So there's a concept called simulating stimulation that can help you if you have ADHD, where you look for areas that you can actually simulate a stimulating environment or a stimulating task on a mundane task in order for you to get something done. So here's a great example of this. I bought 2 of these timers off Amazon. They are little kitchen timers that have magnets on them to stick on your fridge for when you're cooking. I don't use them in my kitchen. I use them here in my office. You can spin this thing and set whatever time you would like. And what's cool about this is if I've got a task and Christy's like, Joe, you really need to go get that done, I will set like 15 minutes or 30 minutes on the clock here, and then I will click this button. It beeps. I am now doing what? I'm racing the clock. I'm trying to get a task done and trying to beat the countdown, which is stimulating. It's in some level, in some way, it'll be different for everybody, but it is stimulating. Therefore, I'm simulating a stimulating environment, even though it might be a mundane task. So learning how to figure out what you could do to simulate a stimulating environment for your work can really help you, if you have an ADHD brain, actually get excited about the work you're doing and get focused, which is cool.
Can I add a quick tip on that?
Yeah.
One of the things that because I jumped on one of their calls to learn more about ADHD, and one of the things that they talked about, a tip that they had was something called body doubling. And that's where you go, if you're feeling a lack of focus or ADHD is really getting on you, you go find someone who is focused and you work alongside of them or with them. You are actually able to like absorb their focus energy and match that. Just something in the brain clicks and you're able to get a ton more done. We do this actually a lot in Creativ Rise. We'll have like random Zoom calls of Zoom calls with people. We'll be like, hey, this is a task I have not wanted to do that I've been putting off. Jump on a Zoom call with somebody. We're both going to get this done in the next hour. Let's do it. And they set a timer and we both just keep the cameras on and both just get to work. And it's like, that is such a good idea. So body doubling is a great tip.
I think body doubling is cool. I love the word to throw on that, like borrowing focus.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I need focus right now. Christy, can you come work right beside me? and you are super focused. So I'm going to watch you just open your laptop, get to work, and bang stuff out. And that's going to encourage me to borrow a little bit of that focus and do the same, right? We are obviously a product of our environment. So if you put yourself in an environment with focused people, you are going to become more focused, which I love. Body doubling, borrowing focus, whatever you want to call it, is a great one. Now, the last one, number 3, the third thing I've been learning about ADHD, and the third tip I have for you if you have ADHD and you're trying to get better at working like me, is physical activity early in the morning is not a luxury. It's not a luxury to get to go to the gym and work out for an hour and a half. Oh, it's so nice. You own your own business. You get to do whatever you want in the mornings. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. One of the things that my ADHD coach has been saying is that people that have ADHD need to get up early in the morning and burn energy and get their heart rate going. And what does it do? It releases endorphins in your brain that starts firing your brain on all cylinders. Where a lot of people with ADHD brains, they can just be so focused on something, parts of their brain are not engaging. Therefore, it's hard for them to get started on different things. Where if you get up and you really start, exerting your body, physically, it really does wake your brain up. So my ADHD coach has said that you got to get your blood pumping and body moving and your mind focused through a physical activity. So do a physical activity that actually you need to focus your mind. So it's not just, I'm going for like a little hot girl walk in the morning.
Those are great, though.
That might help, but maybe try doing some type of physically exerting, experience where you actually need to put your mind to focus. So example, this morning I'm working out and I was on the assault running machine and I've never done that before. And I was like, this thing is insane. Like, people probably kill themselves running on this.
I was actually nervous watching it.
I was like, I'm going crazy. But I was stimulating my mind because I was having to focus on, my balance, my stance, my body, my body weight and where it's focused. Like, I had to stimulate my mind as my body was being exerted. And that gets your mind into the flow state of, my mind's on, it's woken up, let's go to work, baby. Therefore, when I come home, I can get into stuff a little bit easier and I can get started quicker rather than just waking up and kind of just going with the flow of the day and your brain never really fully wakes up. So that is super, super important. So let's talk about why hiring a coach is important. I talked earlier about why I hired a coach. What do you think? Did I miss anything? What has been helpful for you, do you think, about me hiring a coach?
I know we talked about like borrowing focus from somebody, and I think that this is honestly like watching you. I feel like this is like borrowing confidence. I felt like before you felt really like, this ADHD is really kicking me. I don't feel like I have control. I don't feel like I can actually foresee a future in which this gets better. And so therefore I lose a lot of confidence in myself of how my own brain works or how my future is going to look. And it feels like getting an expert, someone who's been where you want to be, you get to borrow confidence. Like, you get to borrow, like, actually, if you're with me, I feel like we can get there, which I think is the coolest thing with what you've been experiencing.
100%. And that goes for you if you're listening to the show too. Whether you've got ADHD, take that into consideration. If you don't have ADHD, maybe you're in a similar spot in your business and you're going, man, I feel like I'm creating inputs in my business. I'm doing things. I'm doing the tasks. I'm posting on social, or I'm trying to pitch, and things just are not working.
Yeah.
Well, where do you go from there? Maybe you consider some of these things to help you, but maybe you even consider getting a coach.
Yeah.
Getting someone that's going to push you in the right direction, but more importantly, just right off the bat, remind you of what you're doing well. Like, one of the coolest things with this ADHD coach is that I actually also hired an executive coach last week or 2 weeks ago. So I'm working with 2 new coaches, an executive coach and an ADHD coach. And one of the things the executive coach said and the ADHD coach said, they both said, Joey, you really seem to be beating yourself up over this. Like, you're in a way better spot than you're giving yourself credit for.
Totally.
You're way more talented. And both of them actually said, you're actually way more disciplined than you're giving yourself credit
100%.
for. And so take that and spin that into your life. That was really encouraging for me because I just needed someone to remind me of some of the positive progress I've already made in the discipline, and the focus areas of my life. Put that in your own situation. Like, where do you need to be reminded by a coach that, you're actually really talented here. You're just lacking a few of the tools that's going to help you take it to the next level. You're actually super talented with your art and with your creativity. You just need someone that's going to come beside you and help show you how to make it a product and then sell it to the marketplace. Or you're actually really good online. Your socials are killer. You're just not pricing your stuff properly. And I'm going to help show you how to do that better, right?
Yeah.
Like that is a fundamental thing that helped me grow my business, helped you grow your business. And that is literally why we created Creativ Rise. That's why we created it. Hopefully this podcast helps you do that. But even more, I would hope if you're someone who's looking to grow your business this year, maybe you're even considering, what does a creative coach looks like? What does a business coach look like? What does a coach by someone who's actually been where I want to be as a creative look like? I'm trying to hit my first 6 figures this year. What does that look like? Yeah. Maybe that's you, right? Maybe you would consider something like that.
Yeah.
And how helpful that can be.
Absolutely. I think about like the Olympics. I'm like, 'cause sometimes we think like, oh, I get like a coach or a therapist or a ADHD coach or whatever when I'm doing bad or if I'm not succeeding. And then you look at literally people in the Olympics and you're like, these are the best of the best. And they have coaches right in their ear all the time. So I think about that for us all the time of like, how do we get alongside somebody who can help us get to where we want to go? And think of it for yourself. If you're in a spot where you're like, I'm already where I want to be, and I'm like kind of set, like I don't really want to like grow, then that's great. You should just stay there. Maybe help someone else. That's awesome. But if you're someone who's like, I want to continue to grow, I want to continue to be more excellent, then maybe diving into something like that would be a really cool move for you, whether it's us, whether it's somebody else, but just finding those mentors and people and communities to push you forward. But if you are sitting there going, you know what, this does make a lot of sense. Like, I'm actually tired of sitting isolated, feeling like I could be somewhere else, but I'm here. And you're not okay with staying in the same spot, then we do have something really cool for creatives that if you are a photographer, filmmaker, designer, if you're a creative service-based industry
Social media
professional.
professional.
Yeah, social media manager, all that kind of stuff. We have our next mastermind coming this fall. So this is round 12.
September 15th.
Which is crazy.
We start. Crazy.
It's our 6-week mastermind. So we go through every foundational thing you need in order to build a 6-figure plus business. And it has been, again, this is our 12th round. We've had over 300 students in it. It is absolutely amazing, the transformation that happens in just a short 6 weeks when you have not only coaches, Joey and I lead the whole community, but you also have peers alongside of you that are in all different areas of business, all different levels of business, literally body doubling, literally borrowing that confidence, borrowing that focus to be able to move forward and accomplish so much in 6 weeks. It's super, super cool. So if you are someone who's like, hey, you know what, that sounds super interesting, we would encourage you to learn more. Creativrise.com's got all of the information there. We literally go week by week of like, here's exactly what you're learning in week 1, week 2, week 3. We go through all the business stuff, like not the creative lighting stuff, anything like that. It's all the business stuff, and it is so, so good. Do you have anything you want to add about the mastermind?
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm excited. Every single time we do this, it sells out, and we always are shocked with the quality of the people that come through. Like they become friends. It's such a cool environment. So I just can't wait. Like I've got a lot of anticipation to see who comes in and the businesses that we get to help guide towards a brighter future and over that 6-figure mark. I'm really excited. Yeah. And quick call it, if you're someone who's got ADHD and you feel like you are running a harder race than people who don't as you are building a creative business, I'm just going to tell you, I've built 3 6-figure businesses in different niches inside of the creative industry at this point, and you can do it too. I'd love to show you how to do that. Yeah. So if you have ADHD, like jump on into something like the Mastermind. There will be support for you in the way that you need it. Yeah. I just told you, I didn't learn the way the school system teaches. Maybe you're looking at something like coaching or education, and you have ADHD, and you're going, well, I don't want to do that, Joey, because my past has shown me that education and I don't mix well. Well, same with me. It's why we started Creativ Rise. It's a different form of education. It's so much more experiential, designed for people to actually get stuff done and get stuff done in a way that makes sense to them so they can grow their business. So if you have ADHD, I would love to see you there. So creativrise.com, you can see everything, what you're going to learn, pricing, payment plans, all that stuff there. You're going to see a lot of testimonials, a lot of video testimonials. You can see other people's experiences, and you can match that up with you think it's going to be an experience that you might also enjoy, and then you can make it a good decision on if it is the right thing for you. But the most important thing about going there is getting on the wait list. Not only are you going to get some bonus courses if you join and a discount if you join, but most importantly, you're going to get first access to the application. Said it sells out every single time. We only take about 30 to 35 businesses every time we run it. So if you don't get on the wait list, statistically shown us the last couple of launches that about 80 to 85% of the spots get taken by the wait list. So if you don't get on the wait list, super cool. You can totally still join. You're just fighting for a few spots rather than getting access to all the spots, because the wait list always hears first. So great things to get on that wait list. But I want to wrap it up by saying this. Quick reminder, ADHD is not a deficiency. It's a superpower if you learn how to actually have the tools in order for you to use it the way that your brain has been designed, that God's designed your brain to work. So that's the journey I'm on. It's been an awesome journey over the last 15 years of me understanding how that all works. There's ups and downs, of course, but there's always hope for a great future.
Absolutely.
It's totally a superpower. I'm fired up about it. If you've got it, I'm fired up. You got it. Welcome to the club. She wishes she would have it sometimes.
Honorary club member.
Yeah, Christy's an honorary ADHDer.
There we go.
But anyways, guys, hope this was a super helpful episode. If it was, two things: share it with a friend. If you know someone's got ADHD, share it with them. Share the link, or just throw it up on your social media. Tag Creativ Rise and tag us personally if you want as well. That way we can see it. We can repost you and we connect with you there. If you get any questions about this and what my experience has been like, shoot me a DM or shoot Creativ Rise a DM. I'd love to chat with you about it. But most importantly, thanks for listening to the episode, and we will catch you guys.
Do you have that productivity sheet you want to give away?
Oh, yeah. I will put the link in the description where you can take a little productivity guide that we use that helps me plan my days and come up with what I'm actually going to work on. We'll put that in the description. I cannot remember the backlink to that, but it's on our website and it's free.
It'll be in the description.
So go check the description, and we'll catch you next week.